Now, I want to be really clear about something. I'm not here to criticize your work or your advising team. I think that you and your advising teams are doing genuinely heroic work. But even the most proactive advisor in the world cannot manufacture a touch point for every student every week. It's a structural problem. Proactive outreach still requires students to respond. You can send an email, you can make a call, you can send a text, but if the student doesn't answer or they can't make the appointment time work, the connection doesn't happen. Early alert systems catch students who are already visibly struggling, and that's really valuable. It's really important, good work, but by definition, you're catching them after something has already triggered that early alert. And for the 85% who aren't seeking help, they're not necessarily visibly struggling. They may well be invisible. There are students who show up, attend class, have the book, and still fail because they don't understand how to learn from the material. They arrive without the study skills or the self-awareness to know what they need. And students who don't raise their hand never enter the system. And the system as it stands might have no way of finding them. That's the ceiling. We've got a question here from Gail in the chat who asks, are current numbers of first-time college students the same as in the past or lower? That's a really good question, Gail. I don't have that exact stat to hand, but what I will do is share in the chat a report that we released last year. I shared some images earlier from our New Majority Learner Report 2026, which is an update on our 2025 report, which dives into questions like that. So take a look at that report in the chat, and hopefully that'll help answer your question. So proactive advising hits the ceiling, but here's the thing. We know that connection works. What can institutions do about this? There's no single solution, and you know this. There's no silver bullet to solve this problem. The best supported students tend to be at institutions that layer several of these approaches together. Early alert systems get you visibility on students who are already slipping. You've then got supplemental instruction and embedded tutoring, which helps you to reach students who might not book a standalone appointment, but would turn up to a group session attached to their course. Belonging initiatives like first year experience, peer mentoring, learning communities, they build the kind of social trust that makes students more likely to ask for help in the first place. But with these proactive supports, you're still requiring students to do something quite vulnerable, to raise their hand, to self-identify, to self-advocate. And a fourth option is tools that don't ask students to raise their hand. They're just there. Technology that's embedded into the learning environment. That's where Genio sits in the picture. Students access Genio Notes through the LMS and can sign in with their university credentials. The barrier is really low to entry for them. They can just get up set up quickly. They don't need to do the vulnerable thing about asking for help, getting a license. They can just sign up through the LMS as part of our institution-wide package. This proactive approach to ensure you're reaching non-help seeking students is so important because research shows that a single advising touchpoint can have a huge impact on the likelihood of a student to persist. And this is the big stat. Students with one advising touchpoint persist at an 18% higher rate. Just one connection, one moment where someone at the institution checks in, a student feels seen, they're able to access some support. One connection and they persist at an 18% higher rate. The value is completely proven, but the scale is impossible because you can't manufacture that touch point at scale through traditional advising, not with current staffing, not with time constraints your students are living under and your office is living under, and not without those students taking the first step. There's a need for an immediate low barrier solution, which brings us to the question, what if you could create that touch point for every student without anyone having to raise their hand? And this is how we think of Genio Notes. It's a bit like an entry point for students. It's an approachable, low stakes way for students to access additional support. As we just said, students persist at an 18% higher rate if they access one advising touch point. Genio Notes can be that touch point, that entry point for a student accessing help. And once they've taken that first step and they've accessed support from the university, they're much more likely to seek additional support because they've seen the value proven. This is what Genio Notes does. It helps you to reach more students with a learning tool that improves student outcomes. We're going to dive into the product in just a little bit, but I wanted to have a moment to just look at one of the institutions we support. As I said earlier, we work with over 1,000 higher education institutions. We help you to help your students improve their confidence, their study skills and grades, which translates into better student experience outcomes and institutional outcomes.